Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Islam Channel's rolling of the Israel-Iran war. We're now in the realms of the ceasefire. And today, judging by what President Donald Trump said at the NATO summit, talking in glowing description about how Iran's missiles were very, very heavy on Israel, talking about how the Iranians were very adept people. They had lots of oil, in glowing terms indeed, and also news breaking out that the Iranians and the US will be having discussions next week on a range of issues. So watch this space. I think things could be in a very different space. We are in the presidency of Donald J. Trump, as he always says. Thank you for your attention to the matter. Anyway, to discuss everything, I've got Dr. Nizar Tobe, a Syrian political activist, somebody who I've interviewed on a number of occasions, most principally when Syrians overthrew their own brutal dictator, Bashar Assad. Assad is not really the right term for him, Dr. Tobe. He's not a lion. He certainly wasn't a lion. I think he was probably many other things apart from an Assad. Dr. Tobe, have I got you?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly, Mas.
Yeah,
yes,
I was saying Bashar al-Assad is probably the wrong title for him, because he certainly wasn't al-Assad with the rest, for his people.
Indeed, very much. He was like a rat, actually.
Yeah.
He ran away like a rat.
I would have thought so. But listen, Dr. Nizar, I've had you on a number of occasions, and you know my views on what happened in Syria. What's going on with the genocide in Gaza, and we also discussed the Iran-Israel war. Many thought at the beginning that this was staged. To what extent, I don't know, but there was a theory going out there, and I actually heard it on TV as well, that the war that took place was in effect an engineered war by this Iranian regime in collusion with the United States and Israel to remove the echelon in their country, the senior leadership of generals and others who wanted to get a nuclear weapon. And this was the result. I mean, do you buy into theories like that, or are they just simply in the realms of conspiracy? And I've heard mainstream US news anchors say this, so I'm not just picking it out from obscure websites.
I think I don't buy such theories.
Yeah.
I think what has happened is reality. Iran has tried its best to develop nuclear weapons, and if we suppose that they were successful in developing nuclear weapons, the first people they would have used it against is us, which is the Arabic neighbors, the Muslim neighborhood. They wouldn't have used it against Israel. They cannot use it against Israel. We could see that what they have used, what they have actually bombed Israel is very weak. Even Trump, in his statement, he said Iran have replied with very weak reply. And, rocketing Qatar with six rockets, 6 missiles, and only one of them reached its destination, only to keep some of the dignity. However, I don't think they had any dignity left in front of their own Iranian people. They are dishonorable people, and they have no dignity. They have no pride whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because in the first place, if you compare the casualties and the losses between the two sides, they are a huge difference, and it's like a joke. In Israel, there is only 28 people. Half of them are Arabs, are Palestinians, and this is what Iran has claimed to be supporting Palestine, where it is killing Palestinian people.
Yeah.
And there was not even a single Israeli soldiers hurt or killed, or not. Forget about officials. Whereas in the Iranian side, there was more than 24 top officials, the first line and the second line officials were targeted and killed. Iran always mislead us and mislead media by saying that Iran actually has targeted so and so, has targeted Tel Aviv and has targeted Ben Gurion Airport. When we target something, it's very much a very broad word. It's different than when we actually get that target, when we achieve that target. It's too much difference between the two words. So basically, Iran has achieved nothing with this targeting.
Yeah.
Whereas Israel has destroyed all the nuclear weapons of Iran and has managed to get rid of all the first line and the second line of the leadership. So I don't think at all that it is been like a theater or scenario. It's been a great scenario. I don't think at all. It's been real, and Iran now has basically no weapons, no way to harm its neighbors. We are very pleased about this end of the war. At the end of the day, as a human being, nobody loves wars. We all like peace. We all love peace. But it has to be such monsters. They should be weapons like de-weaponized, basically.
De-weaponized. I mean, look, I don't think. I think it's to say that the Americans would want a regime change in the same way as Israelis would, or perhaps even Syrians would, is not on the cards. I don't think Americans have any appetite any longer to be involved with a war in the Middle East unless they are directly threatened. And I think Iran is a bit too clever to ever directly threaten the United States. So I think that's off the agenda. Will Iranians themselves rise? Dr. Tobe, looking at what happened during this war, I don't think so. I think Iranians are more united than they've ever been, despite what others might be saying on their behalf. For example, the former monarchists or the Marxist Mujahideen Khalq movement. So what's left is an Iran which people are going to have to deal with. Now, Syria has been very pragmatic. We know even in the times of Israel, there was a report that Israel has been in constant contact with the Syrian government. And I don't think personally that's a bad thing, or it shows that Syria is a Zionist entity or a sub-satellite entity or whatever. There needs to be contact with Israel because it is in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia allows overflights. The UAE has diplomatic relations. Egypt has constant conversations with Israel. So do Jordan, and so do Lebanon. So it's a fact. However, in the same way that Syrians are having contacts with Israel, a mortal enemy, will there be a time, do you think, maybe not now, but perhaps in the years to come, as Syria gets off its feet, that it says, we need to have diplomatic relations with Iran as well. And like the US and Japan did, and the US and Germany did, and many others did after the Second World War, once hostilities are over and there's a period of peace and calm, that bridges can be mended. Because people that I've spoken to, Dr. Nizar, keep telling me that we do need to overcome the schisms that we have within the Islamic world.
So I think regarding the Syrian-Iranian relationship, Iran has been very much involved in supporting Assad in killing.
Would you say never? Would you say never? You will never have relations with Iran?
No. Let me finish.
Sure, please.
So basically, what I'm trying to say, that Iran has been supporting Assad.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's absolutely no, and my views on that. I've been very excoriating the Iranians for that.
So basically, unless the Iranian leadership actually apologize for its role in this, for its notorious role in suppressing and killing us, and they actually provide us with compensation for all the casualties they have caused, we are not prepared to have a normal relationship with them. We are prepared to have a normal relationship with them on the condition that, number one, they do apologize of what they have caused in the last 14 years of suffering and casualties. And number two, they do pay what is to be reasonable compensation for all the life losses and for the damages they have caused to the country and the destruction they have caused.
Yeah.
So I mean, as obviously, this is whether anybody will hurt you and cause you damages, cause you life loss. You wouldn't normalize the relationship without such principles. Whereas for Israel, it's different story. I can understand, for example, United Arab Emirates and Saudi or Bahrain to have to start to normalize relationship and to have diplomatic representation between each other, because these countries, they are not occupied, or any part of them, they are not occupied by Israel. Whereas Syria, we have the Golan Heights, and this is important parts, and it's very fertile land. It has a lot of water resources. It's very much rich area. Therefore, we are not prepared to have any normalization or diplomatic representation before giving us back our Golan Heights. This is part of Syria, and it will ever remain part of Syria for future. And we are not prepared to give up on any single 1 meter on this land. So there is no, we are prepared to have talks, but having talks doesn't mean having relationship. We are prepared for negotiation, but as I said, unless they are prepared to give up for this land instead of the peace, so we come back to the principle land for peace. So yes, we are prepared for negotiation, but not for normalization at the moment.
Okay, well, I think, yeah, time is the best of healers, as we know. So let's see what happens there. In your analysis of the Iran-Israel war, Iran managed to survive the onslaught of Israel and then the bombing by the US. They managed to avoid the US becoming embroiled in a longer conflict. It looks like the US will not get involved in Iran with boots on the ground. That's not going to happen. So do you think Iran effectively is in a much more stronger position now after having gone through this war than it was prior to this war?
Not at all. Iran regime, let me put it that way, Iran regime has very much weakened with these effective strikes, which actually have managed to de-weaponize Iran, mainly nuclear weapons and the strategic rockets, and ballistic rockets. So I don't think now Iran has any capability, even if the Iranian opposition started to move, and I believe they did start to move, though it's been very much left in the black in the media. It's not very much covered in the media. I did hear a lot of these movements, especially for Mujahideen Khalq. So there was several operation carried out all over the Iranian land, but this is not very much covered. Not quite sure why from different parts of media, but I think overall Iranian regime has very much weakened after all this war, and I don't think it can recover to its position before this war at all. And I think this is really the time for the Iranian people to take over, for the Iranian opposition to take over, and for the Iranian people for a proper revolution, because the regime is very much weak and it's actually at its weakest point. And this is the time for them to rise. This is the time for them.
But Dr. Tobe, that's language used by, similar to language used by. I'm not comparing you to him, so please don't get me wrong. But it is the same language which has echoes of what Netanyahu said when he launched the strikes on Iran. And many people will feel, well, it's distasteful. It's probably not the best time to use that sort of language because, you know, there's in not my words, there was the Zionists are the common enemy of everybody. Yet you have a different take on this, don't you? For you, Israel is an enemy you can work with, perhaps, but certainly not Iran. I mean, are you still of that same view?
I'm still in that same view. I mean, having if I have myself and my enemy the same words in some time, it doesn't mean that I agree with them at all, or I will become friends with them at all. It's only we have this benefits, which is the same benefits at the same time, that to weaken the Iranian regime and to overthrow it. We do have actually a lot of benefits of overthrowing the Iranian regime. The whole actually Arabic area, and especially the Gulf area, will be much more in peace if the Iranian regime is out of power, is overthrown. Whereas it's been very much destabilized. Can you imagine, after all the good things Qatar has been to Iranian regime, Iranian regime, they are replying by striking to Qatar. I cannot imagine such bad backbiting, such how you reply to the good with very bad reply. I can't imagine. We always, of course, wish all the safety to our brothers in Qatar and all in all the Gulf area, of course. But as I said, possibly as I may agree with you that Israel is an enemy that we may work with, or we may have mutual benefits. Let me put it that way, possibly mutual benefits by overthrowing the Iranian regime. Whereas the Iranian regime, we cannot actually have any relationship with them unless they are either changed, overthrown, or they apologize and they pay compensation.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I think you're talking about the conditions for having a more positive relationship between Syria and Iran. Sorry, and I get the gist of what you're saying. In terms of building up, where is Syria these days? What is going on? It's not much in the news. It's keeping a pretty low profile. I noticed the leader, Mr. Jolani. He was recently asked by a Syrian news reporter, a fellow journalist, to comment on Israel and what was going on. And he instead of giving a diplomatic answer, he just says, "I will not be answering those questions." He feels very uncomfortable answering questions about Israel. Why is that, Dr. Nizar?
It's still most of our people have this strong feeling against Israel, especially that on the very same day of our liberation, Israel have targeted most of our strategic weapons and most of our strategic military bases. So it seems that they, of course, they do not trust us. We are the real enemy for them, whereas Assad wasn't, because they said literally that they are scared of the strategic weapons falling in the wrong hand, which means our hands are the wrong hand, whereas Assad was the safe hands. So it is still, as I said, it is still very much enemy. We still have, most of our people have high sensitivity against them. So it is. I can imagine why President Sharar has actually avoided to reply to those questions. However, having said that, a few days ago, on Sunday exactly, there was unfortunately a terrorist attack on one of the churches in Damascus, in Duela area.
Yeah.
This is very much mixed area, which has actually different background of minorities in addition to the majorities. So it has Christians, it has Durzi, and it has Muslims.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a couple of terrorists who actually been proven a day later by the Ministry of Interior and the intelligence, being revealed that these people actually belongs to ISIS, and they were in prison in the Kurdish-controlled area.
Yeah.
One of these prisons. They've been released from there. They managed to enter Damascus when the chaos was there, and then one of them managed to explode themselves, and that has actually caused about 22 casualties, 22 dead, and about 60 people injured. This actually was major incident, unfortunately. A lot of ministers have attended the scene. A lot of officials actually have attended the scene. President Shara himself called the high church leader of that Orthodox sectarian, and have offered the condolences to them. The Minister of Interior actually within 24 hours managed, in cooperation with the intelligence, to locate and to arrest the ISIS cell, which was actually responsible, and they did admit that they were responsible, and they were planning further attacks on one of the attacks was planned against the Shia shrine of Sayyida Zainab of Damascus.
Yeah.
So that actually was prevented. It was amazing job within 24 hours or less than 24 hours, despite all the lack of the equipments and lack of all the modern technology. Despite that, they managed to arrest them, and they will face their trials.
Yes. Listen, I understand, and we know this region is a very, very difficult place to understand what's going on fully, because everybody has a narrative and a story, and there's so much conflict there. Is there? You speak of Qatar in very glowing terms, and obviously it suffered from Iranian attacks now, which Syria suffered from as well. Do you believe that Qatar itself will be able to keep that balance between having US bases on the one hand and being a champion of independent Muslim thought on the other?
I think Qatar has proven over the last few years.
Because sorry, Doctor, just to interject, the reason I asked that is I was watching a podcast by Tucker Carlson, you know, the famous conservative news host who's become even more famous since he got sacked by CNN. And in there he said, when the Iranians attacked Qatar, he said, you know, how can they've attacked Qatar, a country that's done more to defend Israel than any other country in the Gulf, which I was quite surprised at.
Actually, what I would say, Qatar has done a lot actually to defend Iran than to defend Israel, to be honest. Qatar has been, especially on Al Jazeera channel, they've been kind of supporting basically Iran and trying to support the Iranian narrative. And I was actually very much surprised that Iran still managed, after all this support from Qatar, still actually did not acknowledge, instead of returning the favor, instead they struck them with 6 rockets. However, having said that,